Hello, and welcome back to TheSponge. I'm Micah Schaff.
And I'm Jordan Whitrock.
Now, before we start today's episode, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor, Anchor.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's free. There's creation tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Also, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thank you.
Hey, and welcome back. Thanks for listening to that commercial for us. We're going to start off with some political news. So the big case with Roger Stone, he was sentenced to 3 years and 4 months in federal prison. But what the sources say is that he might not serve the full time. Trump hasn't decided whether he will let him go or not, based off his powers as president. Stone was convicted of 5 counts of making false statements to Congress, 1 count of witness tampering, and also 1 count of obstructing an official proceeding. And of course, with this, the media will take their own ideas into this type of news. Fox, which tends to be more conservative, believes that the sentence was wrongfully given. So instead of the 3 years and 4 months, they believe it only should have been 9 months. Whereas news stations like NBC believes that the sentence was correct. So I don't know. Do you think this is helping us polarize even more as a country?
I think you can definitely see a separation in the media, differing opinions and such. It's definitely good that things like this are being charged. Obstruction, witness tampering, lying, it's definitely good that we, even through partisanship, we're still convicting, wrongfully done things.
Well, and I think for the common people, who aren't millionaires, they can sometimes feel like those who are at the top class can get out of things easier. So I think with this kind of sentence, maybe that will reassure them that it's not always like that,
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
All right, so we'll move again on to entertainment. So an American in Florence has recreated art, which creates oil paintings. And so there was an interview done by CBS. Charles Cecile talks about the benefits of using the art technique of sight-size art. And he said, and I quote, "The advantage of sight size is the idea of having the canvas alongside. What I see up close, of course, is not what I see at a distance." He later goes on to describe the difference in painting the eyes to the lips, as close-up allows only to be able to see one. So sight size, for those who don't know, means to draw to scale. So what he has people that just sit in a chair, just like what would be a king back then. And he has people paint them. He has a small class of about 20 students.
Interesting.
And that's what they do. And I found that was very interesting. And of course, that's in Italy.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. Portraits have always been cool, but the fact that somebody can paint a life-size portrait and make it look so real. Personally, I am awful at painting. I've never been good.
Well, I've never liked art, personally. I hate drawing. But I think, especially lost arts like this, you should definitely look this up on your own time. It's very interesting how long it takes to make the paintings also, because it's obviously not like a camera that takes a picture.
It's funny. I've actually found myself, how when you're watching YouTube and you end up just clicking, this is recommended.
Yeah.
It either goes 2 ways for me. Chiropractic videos or art restoration.
What?
I know.
For a guy who doesn't like art.
It's no, it's not that I don't like art. I like working with clay and physical art. I'm just not good at drawing. But chiropractic videos, those, I don't know why. I've heard tons of people. They just come up on tons of people's recommended.
Wait, what are the videos?
Literally people just giving chiropractic adjustments.
Yeah, okay.
And then there's art restoration where they go through and explain the process. And I actually found those to be super cool. Replacing a canvas or a frame of a canvas that's been rotted out, or cleaning it specially, retouching everything. That is such an art in itself. I don't know.
I
just remind me of that.
I think it's important though that we don't lose all of these old ways of thinking, because again, not everyone who has lived or touched this planet will ever see a painting like that,
That's true.
So I think if we can create more of those and give people the opportunity to see that, that'll definitely help with that idea.
Yeah, definitely. So next we go to some national news. So in 2017, there was a theft made from the Bode Museum in Berlin by two cousins and a childhood friend of theirs. And they stole a coin weighing 221 pounds, valued at more than $4 million, and it hadn't been seen since until they discovered an evidence trail that led to the two cousins who are now being charged. They will be in prison for 4.5 years. Because they were only 18 and 20 during the time of the crime, they were charged as juveniles, which reduced the prison sentence.
Wait, I thought that. Wait, okay, hold up. Isn't it like if you're 17 and under, you're considered juveniles? How does that work?
Yeah, so there's some leeway. So depending on what type of crime it is, let's say like you're 17 and you commit like a pretty bad crime, they have a choice of whether to charge you as an adult or not.
Okay.
Even when you're 18 and 20, because like it's barely above 18, there is some leeway where they can like change it to like charge them as juveniles because they were basically kids at the time that they did it. 18 compared to 20, like there's not a whole lot difference.
Well, that's interesting because I've always like grown up thinking like, oh, you turn 18, boom, you're all of a sudden like a man, like don't mess up or you're gonna be.
Yeah, I think it depends on the type of crime. Be it like a felony or something, I feel like they'd charge you as an adult, but something
Stealing a really expensive piece
it happens,
of gold. Yeah, okay.
But they also are charged in paying the 3.3 million euros, which is $4.3 million converted into the US dollars. And then their childhood friend, who was also involved, got a security guard position there and was kind of paid off. So he owes $109,000. So that's quite a bit of money.
All right, so we'll move down to sports. So yesterday, the 24th, Kobe Bryant's memorial, and there was a lot of emotion there between his wife and big, huge name players like Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan. There's a lot of emotion there, and I think that was a really big deal. And I know we've talked about this, but it's still interesting to see that like people still haven't moved on. It still touches them.
I'm definitely glad to see that there's a lot of support out there, especially for his family. That is a devastating thing to not only lose a father, but also a daughter. I'm glad that people are still mourning, but are supportive of like his wife, Vanessa.
Aren't they like suing the company?
Yeah, I heard that. Vanessa who was Kobe Bryant's wife, is suing the helicopter company who operated the helicopter for them. That's a tough situation because you're just doing your job, but you're operating it for such a high like person, someone so famous.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think everyone could sue the company like that.
Yeah, I think they're suing for wrongful death, something like that. I guess I don't.
Did it have to do with like the weather and stuff, and them still flying and stuff?
I don't know for sure.
Okay.
But I'm sure there'll be more details as that case proceeds on. All right, so I guess we'll move to our question of the day, which is, are we in fear of losing old arts? Just like the painting that we talked about before. Some other examples of like old arts that are kind of withering away are picnics, handwritten letters, and personally, I think that it's definitely declining, but I don't think we're losing it. I think there's enough people in the world that are here to preserve it and still preserve it. Like picnics, they're not as common when you're not at the beach, if that makes sense. I think it's a shift in thinking. It's not like a first date thing anymore because food's so easy to go find at like Culver's or McDonald's or something like that.
So, like, does that go into playing that you think it will slowly disappear more?
I don't think it'll disappear, but it's definitely going to go down in numbers.
Like, will it be easier to get 2 McChickens instead of a loaf of bread and peanut butter,
Correct. I think it's, they don't have to make the food. They don't have to carry the basket. They just drive through or sit down and order. But,
like, I think that's it. I don't know. I think, like you said, it's obviously, I don't think it will completely disappear, but I definitely think that it will lose, not necessarily its popularity, but its well-knownness, I guess. So, like, handwritten letters, like, when was the last time you wrote a handwritten letter to someone?
I think it was writing thank yous for people.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't find myself, like you said, or, like, yeah, because, like, Christmas letters now, like, if you still get Christmas letters, which is kind of far from few, but like they're all digital, you know, it's like pictures and then they type what they want. It's not even written like have a
Yeah.
Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays.
You can definitely see the difference in generations though, because like my grandparents, both of my grandmas, they handwritten is all they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same.
Like, may it be like they go and buy like a store bought card, they're still gonna write a note in it. Like, they're not gonna leave that like personal connection. But then, like you said, like with Christmas cards, you can definitely tell like the people my parents' age, they're sending like typed up and digitally
and I wonder,
put into a
do you
document.
think that has to do with like they just feel like they don't have time?
It definitely could be a time thing, but I think it's just convenience.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is a lot easier to type something than to write out something with pictures and such.
Well, and they do say like how we're gonna find ourselves going to go to things that are easier to do, you know, in the sense that it'll take less time.
And I think that's why like losing the old arts is like it's never going to disappear. At least not. I don't think in our future, like a picnic. I don't think that's going to disappear.
Well, if it becomes less popular, that means when someone does it, it's going to be of more value.
Mm-hmm.
So they could potentially like make a living off of it, you know?
That's true. That's true. Especially with like that, like older art techniques.
Yeah.
Those are pretty extreme. I just remember seeing like the marble artists that are still out there.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those artists can do some pretty cool stuff. As per usual, our last segment on this day in history.
So in 1793, the first U.S. cabinet meeting was held in George Washington's home.
In 1836, Samuel Colt patents the first multi-shot revolving cylinder revolver, enabling the firearms to be fired multiple times without reloading.
And in 1870, Hiram R. Reveals is sworn in as the first African-American member of Congress.
And last but not least, in 1932, Austrian immigrant Adolf Hitler gets German citizenship.
All right, so for our shout out this week, we want to shout out to Rachel. She told us about how much she enjoyed episode 4 and that her favorite part was minute 4. So if you haven't seen that episode, I'd definitely go check that out.
It's definitely a good episode.
Yeah.
We're glad you guys joined us today for this episode of The Sponge. Find us on Twitter at TheSponge, one word, capital T, capital S. We're on YouTube, Spotify, most major streaming platforms.
So thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you next time.